Hello.
Hello everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
Let's wait for a couple of minutes, guys, for the rest of the folks also to join.
Sure.
Nine. ఆ 7:30 వరకు కూడా తింటలేవా? 7:30 వస్తున్నా.
Okay, hello everyone, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I hope my screen share is visible. Please quickly confirm.
Yes, sir.
Good. Before I get started, quick recap. Yesterday we have discussed about what is an API, what are the data descriptive formats such as JSON, XML, HTML, text, YAML. And an API is simply an interface that helps in data transfer across multiple modules in an enterprise application. Then we have started off with client and server architecture. Client typically sends a request and server gives back a response. And yesterday we have seen just the 20% of architecture where client is sending a request and the server is giving a response. And every request is associated with a protocol such as HTTP or HTTPS. We also discussed that HTTP is unsecured, HTTPS is secured protocol. And how did the industry converted HTTP to HTTPS? For that, I said the industry has used cryptographic protocols such as SSL or TLS. SSL today is outdated. TLS is the latest protocol. Within TLS, again, we have 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, which are outdated. 1.3 is latest. So with this information, we can happily create few test cases also, which I'm going to show you right away. And we have to keep them in mind while testing our projects. So here I will say protocol related security test cases. So what are they? Let me write here. Ensure that the application or API uses HTTPS protocol. It should never use HTTP protocol. Okay. And I will say ensure that the application or API does not uses HTTP protocol. The developer should never use HTTP protocol because your data can be compromised. Ensure that it always uses HTTPS protocol. The second thing is, the third test case is ensure that the application or API uses, or I will say does not use SSL version of HTTPS protocol. Why? Because SSL is outdated, right? So it should not use SSL version, but API uses TLS version of HTTPS protocol. But within TLS, we have again versions, right? So I will say ensure the application or API does not use TLS version 1.0 of HTTPS protocol. So I'll say it should not use 1.1. It should not use 1.2. It should use TLS version 1.3 because that is the latest one that we have to use. Okay, so these are some protocol related security test cases that we can always recommend to our development team. I hope this is clear, right guys, based on our yesterday's discussion. Now the question is, how can you find out whether the developer is using HTTP or HTTPS, whether the developer is using TLS or SSL, and which version of TLS he is using? Should I need an automation tool for that, or can I directly test it without any tool? The answer is without any tool also you can check it. How? I'm going to show it on the browser. Example, if I take this website or any API I will take. So this is one API I have, which I'm executing on the browser, and I'm getting a response. Question one is it using HTTP or HTTPS? If you click on the address bar, you can clearly see that it is using HTTPS. So which is recommended, so the test case has passed. But HTTPS can mean SSL and or TLS. So how should I know, or how will I know whether the developer used SSL or TLS? To know that, all you have to do is on your Chrome browser or Firefox browser, do a right click and click on inspect, which is the last option. And on the right side, you will see a menu tab. In this tabbing, you will see something called security. It will be available both in Chrome, Firefox, or Edge browser also, or Safari browser and Internet Explorer. Click on security. After you are on the security tab, refresh the browser one more time. So click on refresh button. The API call will go to the server. And here on the left pane, you click on the URL, which is https http://bin.org. Once you click on the right side under connection section, you can see what is the protocol the developer has used. So the developer is using TLS version 1.2. And what is TLS version 1.2? Should we recommend it? No, our test case clearly says that the developer should not be using TLS version 1.2 because it is outdated. And if you use outdated protocols versions, what will happen? Your data can be compromised. Now, what kind of attacks a hacker will do? I'll tell right here. Ensure the application does not use TLS version of this because or I'll say to avoid beast or poodle attacks. So these are some attack names present in the industry. Okay, I'm not going to explain what are those attacks right now because it does not make sense if I teach it right now. But these are the attacks that a hacker can do. BEAST stands for browser enumeration attacks. So your data can be compromised in a simple language. So in this project, developer is using TLS 1.2, which is not recommended. Let's try some other website. You can take any website or any API call and just click on this URL again here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If you're working with a local host, usually that shows always HTTP, not as HTTPS.
Correct.
So how would we handle that with the security then?
So the developer says, since we are in the low environment, which is QA environment, and you have to always use HTTP, what you can do is you can raise an open bug in the bug tracking tool and say that the protocol we are using is HTTP, which is not recommended. And until you test the final application that is about to be deployed in the staging environment or UAT environment or pre-production or production, you cannot close that bug. If the
Okay.
developer says, don't worry, in the production we'll definitely put HTTPS. Fine, but that's a verbal statement. You need a technical evidence, right? In industry, in IT industry, you cannot trust a human being unless you see it with your eyes on the production application. So even in my projects, we use HTTP only, which is understandable fact that we cannot have HTTPS in the low run environments. So I put a small, a low priority bug, like a P4 bug, and say that let this bug be open. We'll close it only when the deployment happens to the next environment. So that's how I handle it. And that's my suggestion to you also.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So here, if you see this website that I have handled, I've executed, here you see it is giving the protocol version as TLS 1.3. So this guy is using a latest version, which is good. And let's say I wanted to try something else. Let's say some website, whatever you wanted to check, just check for it, okay? And click on it. And here you can see they are also using TLS 1.3. So you do not know which website owner is using what version or which API is using what version, but this is how you test it. Okay, for that, all you need is just a browser. You don't need any automation tool for that. So I'm going to write here to verify the protocol name and version, follow the below steps. I'm going to give a document which has all these steps. Right now, this is rough notes, so I may not write everything in detail. So I will say, right click on the browser, click on inspect, click on security tab, visit the web application or API on the browser, press enter key, observe the protocol name and version on the security tab, and then you take an action accordingly, whether it is a bug or it is not a bug for you. Okay, so this is on the client and server architecture against protocol. Now, so the client is sending an API or a web request, which is followed with a protocol. Apart from this, the server, the client also sends something called as HTTP methods. We also call it as HTTP verbs. Any one name, okay? Verbs or methods. I'm sure you might have heard of these HTTP methods or HTTP methods in your projects. So let us talk about what exactly these HTTP methods and HTTP verbs mean. So HTTP methods or HTTP verbs. The definition of a HTTP method is very simple. We know that the job of a client is to send a request to server. So server definitely knows that someone is coming with some request to me. But what type of request is that? Server should know, right? Because request can mean anything. Like if I ask you for some request, if I ask for some favor from one of you, which is nothing but a request, that favor or request can be in anything, right? I can ask for money, I can ask for good feedback, I can ask you for your enrollment, I can ask you to refer me to someone, I can ask you, can you give me a job, I can ask you, can you give me a home loan, I can ask you, can you take attendance for this? So the request and favor can be anything, right? So the server also wanted to know what type of request this client is sending. For that, the industry has defined this HTTP methods. So I'll say the definition is it defines the type of client request being sent to the server. So what type of client request is going to server? if you want to know, you need to talk about HTTP methods. Okay, so it defines the type of client request being sent to the server, and this can be known using below HTTP methods. The first method we have is get method. The second method we have is post, then put, then patch, delete. And then there are so many other methods, but these are the top 5 methods we should know right now. I will write the definition of each method and then I'll explain them, okay? The definition of get method is, it is used to retrieve the existing data from the database or from the server. That is the definition of get method. And I'll explain it, but after writing the definitions for the remaining ones. Post method. It is used to create new data on the database or on the server. Then put method. It is used to update existing data on the database or on the server. Same definition is applicable for patch method also. And then we have delete method. It is used to delete existing data on the database or on the server. Let's talk about the get method. So whenever the whenever the client says, I have a request, and the request is, in the server, we know that there is a database, right? Every server will definitely have some database, right? And in the database, lot of data will be there. And we might want to get this data from the database, which is present on the server. So when the client says, I want some data which is present in your database, the method the client uses is called get method, meaning get the data, whatever is already present on the database. Examples of get method and the actions that we do on the internet which resemble get method is browsing a web page. So whenever I come to any website, right? Example, I come here and I go to news.google.com. What am I doing? I'm telling, hey Google, give me the latest news. So Google already has some data in their database, so I'm able to see the data here. Okay, so you're able to see that here. So this is nothing but a get request. Whatever you're asking on the browser, that is a get request. Okay, even if you type yahoo.com, that is also a get request, because you're asking Yahoo server, give me your existing homepage data, and it is giving you homepage data. So browsing anything on the internet is always a get request. Another example that you can relate is view order details. You might have placed an order on the e-commerce application to purchase something, and you wanted to check when is the shipping date. So you click on that order ID, and then it says the dispatch is scheduled tomorrow, delivery happens day after tomorrow. So that is like viewing existing order details. So it's an example of get method. Another one is file download. Whatever downloads you do from the internet, they're all examples of get method. Example, if I go to this sample file download, if I go to one of these websites, let me say sample documents, and here I have some PPTs, PDFs. So I wanted to download this 150 kilobytes file. What will I do? I click on this button and the file will be downloaded to my computer. Since the file is already present, I'm downloading it to my computer. So downloading a file should be treated as a get method, because you are asking server, give me the existing file which is present. Whether I'm viewing it or downloading it, it doesn't matter, because you are calling the existing data. Similarly, reading your emails, reading your messages on WhatsApp, Gmail, anything, they're all examples of get method. Okay. And sometimes the client might say or use post method. The definition of post method is not to read existing data, but to create new data. Maybe you are doing something on the internet which is triggering the process of creating new data on the database. Example, file upload. Whenever you upload a file to the server, don't you think you are creating new data on the database and server? Of course, yes, right? So whenever you upload your resume on the job portals or on the LinkedIn, or whenever you upload a profile picture on WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram or any other similar application, you are creating data in that server or database. So they're all examples of post method. Similarly, I just created an order, creating an order in the e-commerce application. Maybe I'm ordering a pizza now for me. So that's a create action, meaning that's a post API call. Or user sign up to any website is an example of post method, because I'm creating my user credentials in that website. Like I'm signing up for Instagram now. That's an example of post method. Or I'm posting uh, content on social media. So whenever I post something like happy birthday so and so person, or I'm writing a nice blog about software testing and AI in the industry, so I'm creating some content on the social media. Or if I put my recorded video on YouTube, that is also posting content. You're creating content on YouTube server. So they're all examples of post methods. Then you have put method. Put method means you are updating existing data on the database, which means the data is already there. You are just updating it or modifying it or replacing it. Example, I can say change your password. So whenever you change your password in Outlook, Gmail, or any other similar email service provider, you are changing your password. So you're updating the password. So it's an example of put method because you're updating the content. Or updating profile picture on your WhatsApp or social media, or updating profile settings. Maybe you have relocated from city A to city B. So that's like a profile update you are doing. So that's when you say the developer has used put method. Okay. So they're all examples of put method. And the same examples I can do even for patch method, because patch is also meant for updates. Then what is the difference between put and patch if they are same? There is a subtle difference. When we say put method, it is a more powerful method as compared to patch. And put can be used to update existing data. In the existing data, I can update all the fields in the database or partial, meaning selective fields in the database. So you can update all the 10 fields in the database or only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 out of 10 fields in the database if you use put method. Whereas patch method is not as powerful as put. So patch method says you can update only partial fields or selective fields in the database. That's why the name patch is used. Assume that in profile picture, or let's say you take Facebook and you clicked on Facebook update profile. And Facebook update profile has got 10 fields like name, email, gender, city, etc. etc. If you're updating all the fields, we can use put method. If you're updating only few fields out of many fields, then you can use patch method, or even put method also can be used. So put can work like patch also, but patch cannot work like put. So the developer decides whether in his project he wanted to use put or patch method. That we cannot control. But that is the difference between put and patch. Put is used for updating all the fields, otherwise even partial fields. Patch is used on the other side only for partial field updates. Finally, we have delete method, self-explanatory. It is used to delete data from the database. Example, deleting emails, deleting messages on WhatsApp. They're all examples of delete actions. Or deactivating social media accounts or email accounts. They're all examples of delete method. Or deleting files that you have uploaded on Google Drive or box.com. They're all examples of delete method. Okay. So in the client and server architecture, when the client is sending a request to the server, that request should be falling under either get or post or put or patch or delete. So these are the 4 methods against which your HTTP methods will fall in. Is this clear, guys, or you have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, so we understood that the client is sending a request. This request is associated with a protocol and then with a HTTP method. The request is also associated with something called request headers. Now, what is this request headers? Let me also talk about this. And see, in our security testing course or penetration testing course, which is also called as cyber security otherwise, whatever client and server architecture I'm talking now, we will hear these terminologies throughout the course. Okay, I'm not teaching this just for the sake of teaching something. No, everything has relevance 100%. So I'm talking about request headers now. So the definition of request headers is pretty much simple. It is the additional metadata sent by client to the server along with client request. Okay, so it is some additional data that client is sending along with main request. So what can be that additional metadata? I'll give an example. Let's say, I'll take Srinivas Reddy as an example. So Srinivas comes to bank and Kiran is a bank manager. Srinivas comes and says, hey Kiran, I need some home loan for about 50 lakhs Indian rupees. So Srinivas asking for a home loan for 50 lakhs rupees is the request. Is that enough for a bank manager to approve the loan or to reject the loan? Definitely no, right? I, as a bank manager, will ask him, provide more details, Mr. Srinivas. So Srinivas will say, probably he'll talk about some information that will work in favor of getting a loan. Like he might say, I'm currently working for IBM. I have a salary of close to 2 lakhs Indian rupees per month. I have a savings of 30 lakhs in my bank account. I don't have any EMIs or commitments. I have a fantastic CIBIL score and I'm eligible for 50 lakhs loan. So he's giving me all this additional information because he wanted to impress the bank manager and get the home loan approved. So whatever additional information Srinivas is giving, like the company he's working for, what is the salary he's drawing, what are the savings he has, they're all nothing but request headers, technically speaking. Similarly, when the client is sending a request to server, client also will send some additional information so that server can use that. Example of request headers that we will talk about right now is connection is one header, user agent is another header, accept language, content type, authorization. So these are few of the request headers that we should be knowing. Okay. So apart from this, there are so many other ones which we will learn on the go. So what is connection header? This header will tell whether first of all client and server are connected to each other or not. We know that client is sending a request to server, right? Client will never send a request directly to server. First, the client will ask the server, can I connect with you? Server will say, okay, you can connect with me. Then only client will connect with server. So whether that handshake has happened or not is told by connection. It can have a value as keep alive, or it can have a value as close. If the value of connection is keep alive, it means client and server are still connected with each other. Now the request can go and the response can come. If the value of connection is close, it means they are no longer connected with each other, which means either request cannot go or response cannot come because the connection is closed. So this header has to be sent by the client. Only then the request will go to server and the response will come. Ideally, the values will be like this. Connection is keep alive. Then you have user agent. User agent will tell from where the request is coming. Is it coming from Windows or Mac or Linux? Is it coming from Chrome browser or Safari or Firefox or Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge or Opera or something else? From which version of the browser it is coming? All those details will be there in user agent. So here you will see OS details plus browser name and version details. The server will come to know all this information from where the user is coming. Okay? Then you have accept header. Accept header will tell what client will accept as a response. So when the client sends a request, server will give a response, right? Example, one of you is asking me a question, which is nothing but a request. So Shilpa says, Kiran, I have a question. So she is talking to me in English, right? So the request from Shilpa is, I have a question. This is in which language? English, right? And the response has to come from Kiran, right? So I might say, I will answer it in WhatsApp, not here. Now it's up to Shilpa whether she accepts this kind of response from a trainer or not, right? So this is the question that Shilpa sent or one of you sent. I have a question. My job is to answer it right now, but Kiran says, no, I will answer it in the WhatsApp, not here. There is no rule that Shilpa has to accept my response as it is, or she might argue with me also saying, no, Kiran, you have to answer it now because it is relevant right away. So Shilpa is telling what she will accept. That is what accept is here. So client will tell in which format the response should come from server. So client is sending a request. Server says, okay, fine, I'll give you response in XML. Client says, no, I don't want in XML. I want it in JSON only. So that preference format in which the response should come is nothing but accept. So this is nothing but the response format in which response is expected by the client. So this is the definition. The format in which the client wants the response from server. If you don't tell, then server will give in whatever format you want. Okay. Then you have accept language. Same on the lines of accept only. Here, the language in which server should respond. Like if Shilpa is talking to me in English, my answer also should be in English. I cannot talk to her in Telugu. I cannot talk to her in Hindi because maybe she knows those languages, maybe she does not know. And if Girija is asking me a question in Hindi, I have to answer her in Hindi. If I answer her in French or Spanish, she may not understand. Or if she is speaking in a language which I don't understand, the communication does not go through, right? So accept language will tell the language in which the response should come from server. So this is your language, the international language in which server response is expected by the client. Example, English United States can be the value. English Great Britain can be the value. English India can be the value. Chinese, Spanish, Hindi, like that. Here in accept, the format will be something like JSON or something like XML or something like text format, like that it will be there. Then you have content type. Content type means in which format client is sending the request to server. So we know that the client is sending a request, and this request can go in HTML format, XML format, JSON format, text format, YAML format. So client job is to tell the server in which format it is sending the request. So this is the type, the format type in which client request is being sent to the server. Okay, the format type in which client request is being sent to server. Example, it can be either in JSON format, or client says I'm sending it in HTML format or XML format, or it says I'm sending in HTML format or text format, whatever format that server is, the client is sending to server, that values will be there. Finally, authorization. Authorization will contain your user credentials. So it contains your user credentials to gain access at the server level. Because if the server is a protected guy by authorization algorithms, because of the way development has happened, You need to supply those authorization details in the request headers. How do you supply? We will come to know all those things once we touch practicals. But if you look at this diagram now, these are the request headers that client is sending. So first you have connection header, user agent header, accept header, accept language header, content type header, authorization header. The order is not important. These things are important to know. With this, we have completed 50% of client and server architecture. I'll take a pause here. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask me.
During functional testing or anything, if you are passing these values through postman or this, so these values will give, right? So that time this postman will accept consider as a client.
Yes, Postman is a client. True.
Okay. And one more thing, Kiran. So just now you told penetration testing. So is there a difference between security testing, penetration testing, cyber security?
All are one and the same. The definition is little different and the approach is little different. In this course, we are covering vulnerability assessment testing, penetration testing, security testing, part of cyber security.
So part of so we will cover complete penetration testing also, right? The tools
Yeah.
used.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes. Whatever you see on the course curriculum, it is vulnerability assessment plus penetration testing plus security testing plus part of cyber security. So the naming conventions are different, and I will give you the exact differences in the upcoming classes. Because right now, if I tell, you may be little confused.
okay. Yep. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Okay, let's look at the reverse journey from server to client. So we know that server is anyways giving a response, and just like client is sending a request to headers, server is sending something called response headers, which means the response headers is also some additional data that server is sending back to the client. So example, just like when Srinivas came to the bank and said, I need home loan worth 50 lakhs. He gave a lot of request headers that he's working for IBM, 2 lakh salary, 30 lakh savings, etc., etc. Now the manager for some reason said, I'm sorry, Srinivas, your loan is rejected. That is the response. And Srinivas is like, why is my loan rejected? And the bank manager gives reasons. Okay, your loan is rejected because reason one, your company is not listed in my banking process. Reason two, your CIBIL score is not that great. Reason three, there is no history of you taking a loan, so we don't know how you will pay it back. Because of these three reasons, your loan is rejected. So those three reasons is nothing but response headers here. So between server and client also, server gives lot of additional information back to client. Example, connection is one header, where where server is telling the client that after giving you response, I'm closing the connection or I'm still retaining the connection. So that value will be there in connection header. Then content type is there, which where server will tell in which format I'm giving you response body. Whether server is giving in JSON format or XML format or HTML, YAML text, that will be known in content type. Then date, the date on which the response is coming. Then server, meaning which server is giving response. Is it a Tomcat server or Nginx server? Which server is giving the response? That also will be coming. And if server is sending any cookies, you will see cookies information. If server is sending any cache memory, then you will see caching process details also. Like this, so many response headers are there. Every response header has a unique definition. I'll show you where we will read all this information. One website is there where we can read all these things. Then server gives something called response code to the client, and every response code will have a response description also. So what is this response code and response description? Let me show it here. So if you ask me what is response code, I will say it is a 3-digit status code sent by server to the client to reveal the client request status. So client had sent a request, right? We need to know what happened to the request. Has it passed? Has it failed? Was it redirected? Is it not yet processed at all? We need to know all those things. To know the answer, what happened to the client request, we use the response code. And in the internet, the range of response code starts from 100 and it goes all the way until 599. So there are nearly 500 response codes that we have to remember while doing security testing or API testing or performance testing. But obviously, no one can remember those 500 response codes. So I'm going to show you a shortcut here. We will break them into 5 classes like this. At least we can remember 5 classes, right? If not 500. So any response code that falls under 1xx, the industry calls it as informational responses. And anything that falls under 200 to 299 or 2xx, we call it as successful responses. 3xx is called as redirectional responses. 4xx is called as client-side errors. 5xx is called as server-side errors. So these are the response codes. So these are the response descriptions that you see in my diagram. Okay. So what do we mean by informational responses? Which means your request has been sent to server. Server has put your request in the waiting list. Your request is not yet processed. It is about to be processed. Such kind of responses when server is giving to client, we call it as 1xx category. Example, one of you will say, hey Kiran, will you give us the notes? I will say, yeah, let me think about it. So I have not given you the exact answer. I said, let me think about it. So that is an information I'm giving to you. And then you say, do you teach slowly like this because I'm understanding this format of teaching? I will say it depends on it depends on a daily basis. Sometimes I go fast, sometimes I go slow. Then to the full response. But if I say it depends, I am just giving some information to you. So such kind of responses fall under information. Then successful responses, meaning whatever request you have sent to server, it has been completed. Like you told the server, give me that file for download. Server gave you the file. So download completed, that is successful response. You uploaded a file and the file has been successfully uploaded. So that is a successful responses. Then you wanted to delete a file and the file is deleted. You wanted to update something, the update is completed. They're all coming under successful responses. Redirectional responses means your request is sent to some server. So client sent a request to server 1. Server 1 is busy. So server 1 said, I'll forward it to server 2. So this redirection from server 1 to server 2 is called as redirectional responses. Or you are typing something on the browser with HTTP in google.com and it automatically is redirected to HTTPS google.com. So that is also a redirection. All those things will be termed as redirectionals. Client-side error means whatever request you have supplied from the client, the request is invalid. Maybe you made a mistake. You did not supply all the fields, or maybe the password you entered is incorrect, or the username does not exist. So when you make the mistake and send it to server, it is called as a client-side error. Something like you wrote an exam. Think that you are a student now, college student. You have written an examination, and later the teacher gave you the marks and said you failed. You are like, hey, how come? How did I fail? Teacher shows you the paper and says, you have to write 5 answers out of 8 given questions. You have written only 1 answer, which is not sufficient to pass you. So you have failed. So who made the mistake? Teacher or student? Student. Student is the client here. So you failed because you have committed a mistake. So there is an error because of you. That is like a client-side errors. So when you send a request and the request itself is incorrect, so you should be blamed for it. So server will throw an error between 400 to 499, giving you a hint that you made the mistake, so you fix it. On the other side, 500 to 599 is a server side error, meaning your request is valid, but server is so busy that it could not validate it correctly. Server rejected it and server says, I'm rejecting it because of my mistake. So teacher again has failed you, and you question the teacher, hey, why did you fail me? Teacher sees the answer paper and she says, oh my God, you wrote everything, but I think I made a mistake. So let me pass you. So teacher is accepting that she made a mistake here. That is server side error. So when servers are rejecting your request for whatever ABCD reasons, server will throw an error between 500 to 599. Server might reject it because it is busy, or because it is restarting now, or because it is shut down, or because it is going through hardware updates or software updates. Those things are termed as server side errors. So while doing security testing, we need to understand what type of response codes we are getting from the server based on different testing scenarios that we are conducting. Okay. Usually client-side errors and server-side errors are treated as bugs. Client-side errors are mistakes that you have done. That's okay. 200 means success. That is what everyone expects to be there. And 1xx and 3xx are neutral responses. Later, they will be converted to success or failures like client or server-side errors. In case if you want to learn more about these HTTP methods, request headers, response headers, status codes, I'll give you a website and I'll give you links also. So here, if you see, all the response codes are explained in this website. You can go through them. I'll give it on the chat. And if you want HTTP methods or request headers, on the left-hand side, you have headers. So if you come to this page, they have explained the request headers and response headers. Some basic information you will get from here. If you're curious to learn, please refer these articles. Whatever notes I'm going to share, there I have explained very clearly everything. And in the course also, once I go little practical, I will explain all the methods, all the status codes one more time. This is just some brush ups I'm doing. This has the HTTP methods definition also. Okay. So this is about client and server architecture. And what I would like to reiterate is whether you are a manual tester or an automation tester or a performance tester or a security tester, if you do not know client and server architecture, probably we are missing out something while testing the application. And if you know more about client and server architecture, you can do a lot of better testing at your projects. And in security testing, without knowing client and server architecture, it is very impossible for you or me to learn or teach security testing, penetration testing, cyber security testing, because this is important. And whatever I have said, is it something fictional or a fact? Let me prove it to you. So if I come to any website, right? Example, I'm visiting this API, and on the browser, you see the request. On the browser, you see the response. So I'm showing you response and request. Where are request headers? Where are response headers? Where is the HTTP method? Where are the status codes and descriptions? To see all those things, right click on the browser, click on inspect, and on the top, click on network tab. Once you are on the network tab, clear all the previous calls. Click on this clear button, refresh the browser, and here you can see the very first call is a JSON call, because in the browser you are supplying JSON as the endpoint. So click on JSON. Here you see the request headers are there. Here you can see the response headers. In the general, you can see the API URL. The HTTP method is there. The status code you got from server is there. The response also is there. And you see you got 200 OK. And if you go to response headers, you can see content type is there. So server is telling that I'm giving you JSON format. Date is there. Server name is also there. So this server is responding to your request. In the request headers, you can see the HTTP method sent to server. Accept header is there. Accept language header is there. User agent header is also there, which I have told you. So everything is there here. This is where, or this is how you can find out. Okay, so this is about client and server architecture, guys. And Tomorrow, what we'll do is, um, okay, I'll just tell you a few important common response codes that are necessary for you to know. 200 means okay, 201 means created, 202 means accepted, 204 means no content. I will explain it. I'm just writing for now. 400 means bad request, 401 means unauthorized, 403 means forbidden, 404 means not found, 405 method not allowed, then 500 internal server error, 503 service unavailable. Let me explain these two errors because they are server side errors. So 500 internal server error means the server is temporarily unavailable. So whoever is sending a request, they might experience an error. I'm saying they might. Not everyone will get an internal server error. Lucky people don't get it. Unlucky people will get a temporary error. But if they refresh the browser after 2 seconds or a minute, they will get the response. 503 service unavailable means the server is not available for any person in the world. It is completely down for all the people in the world, which means the server is either under a restart mode or shutdown mode, or maybe someone is applying some software updates, hardware updates, or maybe the server is not having electricity supply or a power supply or the internet supply. That's when you get this error. And talking about these 400 series errors, 400 bad request, the first one, it means the request you have sent to server is so bad that some details are missing. Like you are supposed to supply 5 fields which are mandatory, you did not supply all the mandatory fields, then you might get this error. Or you have to enter a 10-digit mobile number, but you have entered 11-digit or 9-digit, then it is a bad request, like that. 401 unauthorized means you have entered the credentials which are not valid, maybe an incorrect username or incorrect password. That's when you get unauthorized error. 403 forbidden means you have logged in successfully, but whatever action you are trying to do in the application, you don't have access rights for that action. That's when server gives you 403 forbidden. I repeat, you are logged in and you are planning to do something inside the application for which you don't have the privileges. Example, you wanted to approve your friend's leave, but you don't have access, right? So how can you approve friend's leave? That's like forbidden. Then 404 not found, meaning whatever you are searching for on the server, it is not available. Example, if I go to google.com, the result has come. But after google.com, if I type ramana.html and press enter, you see I'm getting 404 error. And it says the URL ramana.html is not found on the server. So this is like ramana.html is not there on Google server, hence that error 404. Okay, that is what not found. 405 method not allowed means whatever HTTP method you have used, like get method or post, put, patch, delete, that method is not correct for the application URL you are using or for the API you are using. Example, developer says, Kiran, test this API using get method. But instead of get method, I'm changing it to post method in my automation tool and testing it. So post is not correct, right? Because developer told me to use get. So when I use post, I get this error, 405 method not allowed, meaning that HTTP method not allowed. Then we have success family 200 OK, which means whatever get request you have sent to server, it has successfully retrieved the data from the database. 201 created means whatever post API you have used, you have successfully created data in the database. 202 accepted will be the response code when your update action using put or patch is successfully completed. 204 no content will come from the server when the delete operation is successfully completed from the on the server side or on the database side. So these are few of the common response codes we see on a daily testing that we do in APIs or performance or security testing. We'll talk about these response codes as we focus more and more in the upcoming classes. Okay. That's all I have for today, guys. With this, we have completed major part of chapter 1. We still have few more topics in chapter 1, which I'll pick them tomorrow. before we sign off from today's class? Anyone has questions?
Yes, hi, this is Srikant. I'm from Houston. I
Yep.
have a quick question to ask. So basically, most of the course are we going to cover about the AppSec?
About the
AppSec, application security?
yeah, application security, API security, port level
Uh-huh.
security, code level security.
Okay, okay. And what is the duration of this course? 30
One,
classes?
yeah, 30 classes, close to 1 month, I will say.
Okay, okay. And
30
I can also
classes,
get,
few
uh,
classes here and there. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. And I can also get recorded videos of the previous class, just in case if
Yes.
you have.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
everyone will get the recorded videos, lifetime access, plus the
Uh-huh.
notes, lifetime access.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, well, VAPT testing also will be covered in this session, or that will to
Yes, it
what
will be
extent?
covered.
For both websites and apps, Android.
Yes. For yes, I will be showing you how to scan it. I mean, how to scan the SOAP APIs, REST APIs, and generate test report. Answer is yes, VAPT. If you have a mobile app also, APK or IPA, I will show you simple ways how you can do it. Plus reverse engineering of the code also for mobile apps, I'm showing it.
Okay.
So on the chat, I think my screen share got stopped. Let me reshare. I think I answered this question yesterday, but probably have joined today. So let me answer that. So in this course, we are talking about vulnerability assessment testing, or VAPT. We're talking about penetration testing. We're talking about security testing. We're talking about VAT testing. Whatever terminology used, we're talking about all of them. I'm going to take application level security testing. When I say application, I mean web application.
Mhm.
And if
Little
you're talking
confusion
about,
between this security testing and this VAPT.
yeah, there is a difference. We are covering both. I will tell you the difference in the upcoming classes. And I'm going to talk about mobile apps security testing, then port level security testing, source code level security testing. And I'm going to show you scanning process. I'm going to show you manual testing of security for your projects. I'm going to show you automated fashion of testing your applications using tools. So I'm trying to cover as much as I can in this 30 days course. And with the knowledge you gain in this 30 days course, I'm sure you can step up to the next level and learn something, maybe on your own by browsing here and there, or by enrolling in an advanced security testing course later in the future. Because cyber security, we say, right, this is an umbrella package. Under cyber security, you have 20 different sub technologies, like application level security is one, API level, port level, operating system level, device level, infrastructure level, cloud level. Right now I have told you 8. There are 12 more which I could not tell right now. In this 12 8, whatever I have told you, I'm covering already 4 or 5, because in 30 days this is the best we can do. So no single student can learn the entire cyber security.
Yeah.
No single trainer can teach 100% cyber security. Reason, no one is so perfect in the industry to teach. Second thing, no student is so free in the world that, okay, I will listen to your training for 6 months. Because to learn full cyber security, it will take 6 months to 1 year. Because,
Uh, how
yeah,
how much development knowledge is required for cybersecurity or this VAPT testing?
for
Because I am
my
from a
course,
testing
for my
background,
course,
so yeah.
yeah, I'm answering that. For this course, you don't have to be coming from development background. If you're coming from normal manual testing background, and if you're attending my first 3 classes, that's more than sufficient. Because whatever prerequisites I wanted to have to my students, I'm teaching it directly in the first 2 chapters. So no development background is needed, because we are not coding anything here. It's all configuration based.
Okay. If you don't mind, can you list down the tools which we'll be using for this mobile testing and the web testing?
Burp Suite, Sneak, Network Mapper, Vapalizer, Watruns, Dex2Jar, JDGUI, Wookie Tool, Sneak. For mobile apps, it is Yazini Tool, Wookie Tool, JDGUI, Dex2Jar. Then some online tools available for scanning the APKs. So almost close to, I would say, some 10 different tools on a very safe number I'm giving. Almost 10 different tools we are going to use. All are open source tools.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. Other folks, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, then thank you very much, guys, for your time. If you are happy with the flow, request you guys to go ahead and complete your enrollments so that you can enjoy the upcoming classes as well. Thank you very much. Good night. Take care. Bye bye.
Night.
Thank you.